Hey everyone, how's everybody doing today? I uh I still need a moment to get ready here. Wow, a lot of people here already. I appreciate that. Let me let me fix a couple of things. Oh, and I got something funny to tell you that happened yesterday. You guys. Okay, we have a chat window. Let me move it down slightly. There we go. Wow. Hey Rick, Plato, Corna, how are you? And let's see, we have Des and oh, Rob shoots photos. How you doing? Wow. Anyhow, hi Serge, how are you? I appreciate that you guys being here already and participating in the chat. I just finished downloading the photos you guys submitted for the critiques this week, and God, I really haven't had a chance to look at them yet. So as always, I'm never prepared. You know, I just turn the lights on and sit down and just start talking sometimes. But oh, okay, yeah. Oh, let me tell you. Oh, is the microphone noisy? Let me That's probably my space heater. I'm gonna have to leave that on for a few minutes because I'm cold. But I'll turn it off in about 10 minutes once the room gets warm enough. It's yeah, it's about 58 degrees in here, Celsius or Fahrenheit. Feels like zero, but yeah. Yesterday I was trying to fix. You know, I put up the live stream link for this live stream yesterday, and then I set up another live stream that was supposed to be private, so I could, because a friend was helping me out with the. I was having an echo problem, and then I was having the. What do you call it? The lip syncing problem, right? in the live streams when I have a guest on, and see, I feel like, but anyhow, but I use the same streaming key. So apparently, when I started the private stream, it opened up this stream at the same time. So I had like, I don't know, 20 people in the room while I was the volume is clipping. Okay, let me turn it down a bit. Too low, right? Okay. The mic level's too high. I know, because the mic level was too low yesterday. So I messed with something. But me and my buddy Walter were trying to figure out this whatchamacallit. Let me okay, let me get the audio straight first. Does this sound okay right now, or is this still a little bit too clippy? So I'm just gonna talk a little bit, and you guys tell me, how is the volume right now? Is it still clipping, or is there distortion? I turned the mic down a little bit, but seems like it's okay now. Still clippy. Okay, let me fix one other thing. There's that, and there's one other place. Such a pain. I hate Windows. I just hate computers, really. But where's the sound? Device properties. Turn it down to 80%. Now is it too quiet? Get a Mac. I'm not getting a Mac. I'll have to tell you the story about why I don't buy Apple products too. So anyhow, How's that? It's not too quiet now, is it? But I did turn the thing. If I want to be a photographer, I must really like computers. Uh, you know, I had a computer life many, many years ago when computers were still kind of in their growing stage, right? Like 286. I mean, I remember the 8086 was a little bit before my time. I was kind of in high school, college, but then when the 286 and the 386s came out, if you guys know what I'm talking about, that's kind of when I really got into it. But anyhow, um, and Macintosh is now it's too quiet. Try try adjusting it. How about now? You guys let me know how that sounds when after I talk for a little bit. But uh, I when I went out looking at computers, I never I didn't have a computer at the time, and this is the very first computer I ever bought as uh as an adult, right? I had like the Commodore 64 and stuff when I was in high school. Um Things like that, right? What was another one? The Amigas? No, that wasn't mine. That was my friends. But Commodore was a big deal, and I had a Texas Instrument TI 99. But as an adult, I wanted to get my first computer, and the PCs were still running 8086 or 286s at the time, and Macintosh came out, the little cube, right? And I went to go look at that because I'd never seen a computer with a mouse before. And oh, thanks, sir. So it sounds okay now. All right. So I went to the computer Apple store. They called them Apple stores back then. Maybe I can't remember what they called them. I went to an Apple store and they had a Mac there, and it had a mouse, and the guy was showing me how you can draw things on the screen, and I was just blown away. I was like, God, this is freaking amazing. Uh, and then he said, and then look at this floppy drive. It's only this big. It's 3.5 inch. And I said, okay, those are starting to come out now. But he puts it into the drive because I said, how do you save your pictures after you have them? He said, well, you can save them to the computer or you can use a floppy drive. And I said, okay, well, let me see the floppy drive. So he puts the disk in there, and I'm watching it, and the little hourglass is going. And I said, well, how do you know it's saving to the floppy drive? He said, well, there's a hourglass on there. And I said, okay, but I don't hear anything, and there's no light on the floppy drive. The guy looked at me and he said, what do you need a light for? And I said, well, so I can see that it's saving to the floppy drive. I need some kind of confirmation visually other than the hourglass thing, because hourglass can happen for almost any reason, right? It doesn't have to be because it's saving. And ever since that day, I vowed I will never buy an Apple product because that pissed me off so much. The way the pompous attitude that guy had in the sales store, telling me that I don't need a red light on my disk drive. So, uh, ever since then, I've only had one Apple product in my life, and that was a gift from my dad. He bought me a little whatchamacallit. What they call those little music players? He got me one of those that had a video screen on it. That was back in the early 2000s or something. But yeah, every time I look at an Apple product, that's where my brain goes, is back to that pompous salesman. And to this day, really, Macintosh or Apple has not changed their philosophy, right? They really have a very closed ecosystem that provides one experience for everybody. And it's a very simplified, very easy to use. I mean, I'm not criticizing, it's an excellent ecosystem, and it's very consistent, and there's nothing but good things to say about Apple products. but I can't buy one because of that incident since then. Yeah, iPod. Thank you. Thank you. It was an iPod. So that's the short story of why I don't buy Apple products. Or semi-short kind of, you know, I just can't do it. It's just like some banks I'll never bank with because they did something, did some things in the past. But anyhow, it's maybe it's irrational for me to hold a grudge for 30 years or however long it's been against Apple, but I'll never forgive them for that. I know that's the saying, forgive and forget. But anyhow, yeah, so I'm totally Windows and Android, but I hate Windows too. I mean, upgrading to Windows 8 when it came out was a big step. I loved it. Uh, I mean, the old Windows 7 and prior to that was fine, but when they upgraded to Windows 8 and they changed the user interface, I really liked it. And now they kind of went back to the Windows 7 kind of desktop looking thing, which is fine, but the problem is, and it's not Microsoft's fault much as it is all the hackers out there. But I have to update the freaking computer every other day. And that's what happened to my microphone. I think there was an update that reset the levels on the microphone. And now and then I was struggling, like I couldn't figure out what was wrong. uh, so that was part of the problem yesterday I was having. I was like, why is the mic and all the settings on this software over here are perfect. I didn't change anything, but there was the volume was low. I couldn't figure it out, so I had to dig into the control panel in Windows and look for device settings and blah blah blah. And now I know where to look for that one setting, but apparently that setting is independent of everything else that uses it, apps and everything else. So, yeah, it's just, oh my God. You know what? Let's not go down this road because I'm trying to stay happy. I'm getting a little bit flustered because of this confinement, right? The stay-at-home order, and it's starting to wear on me a little bit, oddly enough. Uh, it normally I love staying home. I don't like to go out and only go out when I have to, but uh, I haven't gone anywhere like in 3 or 4 weeks, except one or two small things I did. It's and just being stuck at home is it's no wonder people are going crazy, right? At least from what I see on the news and things. Um, so I hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing fine. My health and everything. I check my temperature every day. So I'm good. But oh, anyhow, there's that. Also, I wanted to share with you guys an email I got. I think it was Ronald Schleyer. I don't know if he's here or not, but he sent me an article to like the basics of photography or something, and it was very high level and there wasn't much detail. But there was one particular part that that somebody was doing multiple exposures, right? So you're familiar with double exposures where you overlay images. Well, he referred me to a guy that does like overlays 40 or 50 images and creates these amazing photographs that I want to try. And I put a link to it in the show notes below in the or not yeah, in the description, right below. There's a link. It's called Frank something Multi Expo, but it's pretty amazing. Um, where's it? If I can pull it up for you guys just to show you. Um, Where is my screen? Yeah, here we go. But yeah, look at these images here. They're all multiple exposures of the same scene, but what he does is he kind of walks along an axis, takes a shot, takes a shot, takes a shot, and then blends them together in Photoshop or some other software. But like I said, there's a link below down to this page. But you can see some of these shots are open up. That one's yeah. Look at I mean, it, it's hard to appreciate looking at it through a stream, right? But it's really pretty amazing. Um, but this one's a little more obvious, right? That they walked around, and I just love how all the people are kind of, all over the place, and then the way this building just spreads out. It's so that's something I want to try once I get out of the house. I thought it was pretty cool. Um, so yeah, definitely check that out. So I want to thank Ron Schleyer for sharing that with me. That article. There's also, and if I get a chance, I'll try and find the link to academia.com or something where you get articles from about photography and different things, and some of them are better than others, just like everything else. But they make for a good they make it makes for a good read. To when you get a good one, like the article about this particular photography was really good. Um, uh, so, how's my dog doing? She's doing great. I mean, we still go for walks. Just uh, there's one little sidewalk that I have to get to. My neighborhood is not very whatchamacallit, pedestrian friendly. I mean, there's a sidewalk for about 1 or 2 blocks, and that's it. Then everywhere else, I have to cross a street or walk on the gravel right next to the road. And she doesn't like the cars whizzing by. It freaks her out, so I don't like to take her out. But fortunately, I have a big yard, so I go out and I play with her a lot. I have about a half acre that she can run on. A little over an acre total, but about maybe a little over a quarter, between a quarter and a half acre. Let's say a third of an acre. She has free roam, so she's really enjoying that. Oh, Lauren, you think you did that by accident? I know, right? Me too. But I'm gonna try and do it in camera, right? Because you can do multiple exposures in camera. It probably won't have be anywhere near the results that guy got, but might be fun to try, right? To do it in camera. Not too dissimilar from when I did my toilet paper roll photography, where I kind of overlaid myself inside of the down the tube of the roll. But I won't know till I try. I have to give some thought, because when you do multiple exposure, you're kind of uh, limited by how much light's coming in. So if there's already light there, I'm not going to be able to overlay a dark image over over a lit area. So I don't know. It may not work. I want to try it though. Um, they want to get rid of cars in New Zealand. I think New Zealand, gosh, does you live in New Zealand? It's like one of the most beautiful countries I've ever seen. I've only seen pictures of it, right? Of course, pictures can make any place look beautiful, right? But uh, There's a movie, I think it's called, and I've recommended this movie before. It's called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It's a great movie for photographers. Both the story itself is very photography centric, but also cinematically, it's just a gorgeous thing. And I think a lot of that was shot in New Zealand, my understanding. So definitely check out The Secret Life of Walter Mitty when you have time. I think it's worth a couple hours of your time as a photographer. Now, I wouldn't recommend it to non-photographers so much. They wouldn't appreciate it quite as much, but I think as photographers, really that really doubles the experience of that movie to a level that makes it, really good. I don't think it did that well overall. Yeah, my mom, she's stuck at home. It doesn't stop her though. She still comes over, but I told her to stop cooking food for me. I said I just don't need it. I got enough food. Of course, I'm out of eggs and bread pretty much. I'm eating oatmeal for breakfast. 'Cause there's that challenge I talked about last week, my forum, the food challenge. So I might try and take pictures of more my other meals that I eat. They're not that interesting. It's usually just chicken and rice. That's the other frustrating thing. Uh, I have to watch my diet for, all kinds of reasons, but I've put on weight because I haven't been able to go on my photo walks as I normally do, and I just don't have this routine at home where I exercise. I might have to start one. Oh, anyway, let's see. Let me get ready for the photo critique, sir. Just quickly, does anyone have any questions? Have I thought about doing the M1 Mark III setup video? I'll give that some thought. Uh, there's so much overlap between cameras, but I think what I'm going to do with my channel is separate the videos by specific camera model. So if you look at my new channel page, it's not new, but I've tried to group them by camera model. Even though there's so much overlap, uh, there might be some benefit to that. So I'll make a video, say, on the EM5 Mark III and the EM1 Mark II. I do separate videos on the menu system because they're virtually identical. So I don't know. That's my challenge. It's like I feel like just kind of repeating myself, and there's not much value in having two separate videos. But on the other hand, some people like to see exactly the same camera that they're using walk through the menu system. So I'll do that. um, that's saying I haven't finished the M5 Mark III video yet. I know. I should really crank out some more videos. I, um, I just get bogged down my brain and other things, and you start to overthink things, and then you don't get anything done. Like the other day, I took about 80 or 90 photos at different ISOs. Let me show you that. This will be a good video, I think, coming. What about some information on video? I have not a clue where to start. Oh, Jeff, yeah, I have a video basics series. It's like 3 or 4 videos on the basics of doing video on Olympus. You can check that. Let me share with you guys something I'm working on right now. How do I get there? So this is you look over here, just straight up, these are all the cameras I have, right? Well, they're in the picture too. But GX85, EM1 Mark II, EM1 Mark III, EM10 Mark II, D750, XT30. And all of these cameras I picked them to compare for very specific reasons. Like The EM5 Mark II and the EM10 Mark II and the Pen PL8, the image quality is exactly the same. I mean, I could not discern with the naked eye any differences. Those three cameras, so I only left the EM10 Mark II in the list. But I also have my D750 and my XT30. I put the EM1 Mark II next to the EM1 Mark III because between the EM1 Mark II and the EM5 Mark III, there was no difference that I could see with my own eyes. So I just got, anyway, that's the list. EM1 Mark II with the TruePic 8 processor, EM1 Mark III with the TruePic 9 processor, EM10 Mark II with the TruePic, is a TruePic 7, right? And then the D750, which I forget what they call it, XP 4, maybe. And then the XT30 from Fujifilm, which has their, whatever they call their engine in there. But my intent here is to compare all of them by ISO at different ISOs. And I went up to 25,600. And then I went to 51,200, but only the Nikon and the Fuji went that high. There. But yeah, I'm doing an ISO comparison between JPEG and RAW. I was a little surprised to see something with the Nikon, and I don't know if it's the raw processing engine of Lightroom that's causing it, or if it's something the way Nikon puts the curves in their raw processing engine, because it's clipping highlights where the EM1 Mark III does not clip highlights. So I need to do a little bit more research on that piece of it, because when I opened up the raw files in, say, Luminar, it was clipping highlights on the EM1 Mark III and the Nikon D750 pretty much the same. So definitely the raw processing engine has a big role in determining the kind of image quality that you get. But if I just use Lightroom, you know, I'm getting clipped highlights on the Nikon D750, and I'm not getting them on the EM1 Mark III or EM1 Mark II, etc. Back. So yeah, that's something I'm working on. And but I wanted to, you know, my intent was originally to compare the ISO noise at between these three different cameras. And just long story short, spoiler alert, you know, APS-C is a little better than Micro Four Thirds, and full frame's a little better than APS-C. I mean, just the way it is. But it was still, I think it's still interesting to see how much of a difference there is. Um, you know, how much noise is generated versus how much detail is lost versus, you know, what is the dynamic range of the pictures at base ISOs. And like I said, that's when I was comparing dynamic range, I found the Nikon was being clipped in the highlights, and I was like, I wasn't expecting that. So apparently Olympus has a very flat curve where they bring the highlights in a little more, and the shadows were about the same. Okay. Craig's asked, I'm debating between getting an Olympus M1 Mark III and a Fuji X-T3. Do you find the image quality of MFT to be equal? Yes. At up to about ISO 800 or 1600, there's so little difference between the processors. Because, like I said, I just did this test, right, of all the different ISOs of all the cameras I have. And really, up to about 1600, it's virtually impossible to tell, at least for me. And then when you start getting the 3200, 6400, then you start to see some difference between 4/3 and APS-C. The difference between APS-C and full frame was pretty minimal at 6400, but it was definitely there at 6400. And then up, you know, and then beyond that, the differences, you know, remain equal about from that point. So if you're sort of an enthusiast photographer and you're taking things mostly in normal light, you know, you're not going to be able to tell difference between any of the cameras. If you're shooting in low light all the time, not using flash, and and shooting at high ISO, uh, you know, 6400 and higher, then you know APS-C and full frame is going to give you a little cleaner image. But in the scheme of things, uh, I feel like the camera itself has to be the deciding factor, not the ultimate image quality on a test like I'm doing. Because for me, like I said, I shot full frame for a few years, and I don't miss it at all. Because even in low light, the images are very good on Micro Four Thirds. And I take the Micro Four Thirds camera out when I would not want to take out a full frame camera because of the size and weight. And the other thing is the ergonomics of the camera vastly different between, say, my Nikon and my XT or my EM1s and 10Fs and everything like that. But more specifically, the Fujifilm, I I had a hard time with it. Um, I didn't I didn't think the menu system was any more intuitive than Olympus was. And on the XT30, well, I can talk about the XT3 because they're a really good deal right now. The image quality is great. The colors look really good. Um, but I thought I would it's a good camera if you're coming from an older film camera. Controls are very similar to um, film cameras, right? You got a dial for shutter speed. You got the aperture ring on the lens, and then you got ISO ISO button on top and exposure comp. So from a full manual perspective, I think if you're going to use the camera in full manual all the time, Fuji may be a better way to go ergonomically because the dials are right there, labeled very clearly. And on Olympus, you know, it has the same number of dials and everything, but you have to set them to those specific things. I mean, I think they're preset to the common ones, ISO and shutter speed and aperture, but it's ergonomically it's different, and I prefer the ergonomics of the Olympus because, for example, if you shoot an aperture priority, uh, then you have to put the shutter dial into A. That's on the top of the camera. My Fuji's out there, otherwise I would just show you. And then if you have to, and then you'd also have to put the ISO on auto or A. So that's two dials on the top of your camera that are completely useless now because you're an aperture priority. So you have to think about that when you're actually using the camera. The dials become disabled basically. So you don't have as many dials on that camera as you would think using it. And then to adjust things, they have the two tiny dials on the front and back, and that ergonomically is not my preferred way to use a dial. I prefer the larger dials, like just about any Olympus camera. And all of them are active no matter what mode you're in, right? Nothing is disabled, you know, becomes useless. And that was the problem I have with Fuji is, yeah, you have your shutter dial over here, your ISO dial over here, your aperture's here. So you want to shoot an aperture priority, you just have to rotate the ring, but then your ISO dial and your shutter dial are useless, right? So that's two dials on the top of the camera gone. So that's why I like the ergonomics of the Olympus is better. Okay. Um, that was for Craig. So hopefully that helps a little bit. So don't look at just image quality, you know, or ultimate image quality because the differences are very subtle. Uh, up to about 6400, there's not enough difference, in my opinion, that offsets the usability of the camera. That says he wants a 40 to 150 Pro when the zombies have left. Which tele converter is better? I think they're equal. I don't know though. I don't own either one. So you'll have to do your own due diligence on that. That's not something I own or know about. I think Robin has one. So if he shows up, maybe you can ask him. Uh, Ross says that sounds great because I'm thinking of an EM5 III because many of the reasons, but hopefully better ISO than the EM10 Mark II. It is a little better. The EM5 Mark III is a little better than the EM10 Mark II. Like I said, I'll try and do a video, but I still need to give some thought about that. Rob, oh thank you. I can't see who it is yet, but I'll come back to it. Do you have any videos on general JPEG settings? I do have one video on JPEG, but basically shoot in large superfine. So I forget, it's a very early video. So if you want to see a younger version of me, I do have a video on JPEGs, and I pixel peep the heck out of large superfine, fine, normal, and I think base. I never use the other ones. I always use superfine. But it has to do basically about how much they're compressing the images at different levels. General. So I mean, if you're asking about large superfine versus normal, I have a video on that. If you're asking about different JPEG settings like setting sharpening or contrast or gradation or saturation, like all the other settings that affect JPEG, I don't have a video specific to that. I can speak to it if you ask me specifically what you were. But for example, somebody asked me what are the best JPEG settings for maximum dynamic range. I can kind of answer that, give you my opinion on that. But anyhow, yeah, if you could be a little more specific, or if that answers your question. Rick says ISO is very complex. Each manufacturer does it differently, and it's not linear. Yes. One of the few technical subjects that does my head in. Yeah. Yeah, the problem with ISO is the problem with my testing methodology is I couldn't use the exact same lens. I put a 17 millimeter on the Olympuses and Panasonics, and then I put the 35 millimeter f2 on my Nikon, and then I used the kit lens, this whatever it is, 18 to 55 on the Fuji. And all of them have a different t-stop number. Like they let a little bit different amount of light in versus, if you have the same aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, all of them are going to give you slightly different exposures, even though you set everything. Now that variance is very subtle, but I think it might be partially what's affecting my results. So I'm going to try to approach the noise levels and ISOs with that disclosure that, and kind of explain that a little bit. So, but that was one challenge. The first challenge was just making sure I had consistent lighting, right? So I just used one light, kept it on at full power the whole time. But okay, yeah, it's not an easy thing. I mean, I remember Robin did a comparison recently between the M5 and the M5 Mark III, and he did a good job. But he was comparing JPEGs with a normal amount of noise reduction applied, and that's not the same as comparing raw images. And the problem with comparing raw images is the raw processor that you use. Like I said, I'm using the Adobe raw processing thing, and I'm going to give some images to my buddy Walter because he uses Capture One, and see if he gets that same clipping that I do with the Nikon files. Oh, I haven't seen Robin's new video. Yeah, Robin and Peter both put out new videos, and I just haven't had a chance to see them yet. Hi, Angelo. How are you? Anyone watch Peter? And yes, I did. I watched Peter and Joe Edelman yesterday. That was pretty awesome. Joe's a great guy. I mean, um, he's yeah, I wish I could disclose some things, but but I can't. But he's a really good guy, and I can highly recommend his channel. You really pay attention to what he's saying. Uh, you'll learn a lot from him, and he gives great information in his live streams. At the beginning of every live stream, he really takes time to share with you resources or links or things that will help you, right? And then he goes right into answering questions. His streams are 10 times better than mine. Really a good guy. He has a ton of do-it-yourself videos that it doesn't matter what camera system you use. So I can highly recommend his channel and Joe too. So definitely check him out. And I assume everybody's familiar with Peter, right? Peter's a great guy too. He has a great channel and lots of videos on Olympus gear, very specifically to Olympus. Joe's not too much doesn't talk too much about Olympus. He talks more about photography, right? But talks a lot more about Olympus than Joe does. Oh, my screen keeps scrolling wrong way. I just scrolled up for some. Can you do a video about blurring the background of a pic in Photoshop? Good skill to have. Oh, I'm not good at Photoshop either. I know how to use Lightroom. I can kind of get that effect, but yeah, it's not my area of expertise. But all I can say is you want to use a gradient filter with Gaussian blur. So that's how I would do it, but I'm sure there's much more sophisticated ways to do it. But I would use a gradient filter as a layer, adjustment layer, and apply a Gaussian blur. And that's that. But when you take a picture, though, you have to frame the picture in a way with the intent that you're going to be post-processing it that way. Because it's very difficult to add blur effects or fake bokeh, in other words, to an image if there's a lot of competing things in there in the image. It's kind of hard to explain. It'd be easier to show if I had a picture, but you know, take a picture with the intent of doing post processing, and then things will go a lot easier for you. Because I can't you can't just take any picture then apply bokeh, for example, um, unless you use some very sophisticated techniques. So make things easy, right? Don't try to light a match on the beach when it's windy out, right? Take the picture with the intent of post processing, and then it'll be much easier to get the effects that you want. That's the only advice I can give. I don't have the skill set really to do it any high level. I can do very basic things. um, in the Fujifilm line, if you want more typical digital camera controls, I'm thinking of going with the XT200. It also has a Bayer sensor instead of Fujitrans. Fujinon lenses are all rated good to fantastic. Yeah, I'm not that familiar with their lens lineup. I always hear good things about it. I'm not super impressed with the 18 to 55 2.8 lens that I got. Because when I did my ISO test, I could see it was a little bit softer than my Olympus 17 millimeter. And my Olympus 17 millimeter is not Olympus' sharpest lens either, right? And even that lens was better than a zoom from Fujifilm. But that's not a fair comparison either, right? And again, we're talking about pixel peeping, right? And seeing those differences, not real life photos. But yeah, but Fujifilm makes, fine cameras as far as I can tell. I mean, the X-T30 I haven't shot with it enough to have a strong opinion about it either. I can only go off what everyone else is, right? What you see online. Alan says, when I was looking to upgrade to a new camera, there were 3 that I looked at. I chose the Olympus and haven't regretted it. Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, the M1 Mark III, yeah, it's an awesome, awesome camera. I love the handheld high-res shot mode. And finally, photography by Sturkis. Thank you so much. Thank you. You probably left already. Uh, okay, I'm gonna get caught up here, and then we'll get right into the pictures. It's almost an hour, and I haven't even looked at anybody's pictures yet. Get in here. I've been a professional since 1969. I've always used shutter priority because I want everything sharp. Everything else is secondary. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, very early on in my videos, I always told, for beginners, my beginners series, I always told people, the problem with most beginners is they're not using a fast enough shutter speed. So I tell them, let the ISO go as high as it can, in auto ISO mode, use the maximum range available so that you always have enough shutter speed, because it's better to have, a slightly grainy picture versus a blurry one. And that you can only do that with a faster shutter speed. So it's always a good practice. I don't necessarily shoot shutter priority, but that kind of makes sense. I could shoot shutter priority, but I actually prefer uh, aperture priority, so I can let the most amount of light into the camera at all times. So I usually shoot wide open, and then I don't mind if the shutter speed goes to 1/20th of a second, 1/10th of a second, especially because I do a lot of night photography. But yeah, it's sound advice. Keep your shutter speed up. If you do it by shutter priority, that's one way. Uh, Frank, I don't know the difference between an EPL9 and an EPL10. It might be uh it might be some feature, right? Like I think the EPL10 has Bluetooth and the EPL9 does not. But don't quote me on that. But I think that's really the only difference. Honestly, I would recommend the EPL8 over either of those 2 cameras because it has the option to add a viewfinder later if you so choose. And image quality wise, there's no difference between any of them. You could go all the way back to the EM1, EM5 Mark 1, EM10 Mark 1. The image quality is pretty much the same today. Oh, Des, I think Robin was comparing the EM1 Mark 1 and not the Mark 2, if it's the recent one that he did. And colors are subjective. Like I said, I don't know the lighting conditions he was under. It looks like he was shooting on his balcony. Lighting conditions can change. That's not a constant light source. So it's hard to say. Might want to ask him about that. Why on earth are lenses so expensive? It's ridiculous. Yeah, I get it. I bought the PL8 nice metal and not so, yeah. Yeah, Lauren, the PL8, or Lauren recommends the PL8 as well. Yeah, Jeff makes a good point. Cameras are all different. It's really no point to compare them so much. They're all different. Rick's sharing about the difference between the MC14 and MC20. Talking more about the magnification difference. Obviously, one is 1.4x, one is 2x. But you also have to apply that to the aperture as well. So if you're at f4, you use the 2x teleconverter, your lens is now an f8. You lose 2 stops of light. Just, so that's another big consideration. Yeah, Joe's a good guy. The big difference is how. Where are we? Oh yeah, Rick followed up with the big difference is stops you. How can I focus peaking constantly without pushing a button with a full manual lens? Two. Oh, shoot. I don't have my EM1 here. My mom is here. It's funny, you guys were talking about like my mom doesn't come over. She's here now. She always calls me before. We're gonna take a quick break, and then I'll be right back. I have to go get whatever it is. Sorry, guys. I'll be right back. Me. See, where's my Okay, we'll take. Okay. She I don't know what this is. This is I don't know. She said she grew it, put something in it. It's some kind of soup. Anyway, sorry about that, guys. I appreciate you guys' patience. Ah, she's probably wondering what I'm doing because I got like my fancy pants vest on. Because normally when she comes over, I'm like in sweats or something. Um, focus peaking. Basically, the focus peaking. What I do is I normally assign it to a function button on the front of the lens because there's two buttons on the front by the lens. And I assign it to one of those, and once it's activated, it usually stays on. And then if you change modes, say from aperture to shutter, or if you change the mode dial, sometimes it gets deactivated. Then you can just quickly activate it again using the function button on the front of the lens. So that's what I normally do. Polarized. I wish I could demonstrate that for you, but I just don't have a camera. I'm using it right now. Oh my goodness, so many questions here. Why is my things keep jumping? Well, let me go to the yeah, Lauren, she didn't bring me any bread or eggs. She always cooks something and gives me this, and I'm like, I gotta cook some chicken tonight because I had it in my fridge for a couple days. If you don't cook it right away, it goes bad. So I gotta cook that, and then I have this that I have to eat. Yeah. uh, any thoughts on the new R5? No, I have no opinion on that, Serge. It's supposed to have like 8K video or something. you know, compute, you know, that might be great for very high-end video people, but I can't. Yeah, I just don't know enough about the camera. I'm sure it's a great camera. It's going to be expensive. That's all I can say about it. Oh, thank you, Jerry. Jerry has good advice about making sure the focus peaking stays on. Is set your super control panel, set the focus to manual focus or manual focus plus autofocus instead of leaving it on autofocus. That's great advice. Thank you. Polarize. I'm not talking about the function button on the lens. I'm talking about the function button on the body. There's two little buttons right by the lens mount, right? She saw my food challenge pictures. Okay. Speaking of challenges, let's go to the gallery. Let's see. I need to go to the these are all the pictures I took comparing ISO and stuff, and some of my food pictures I was trying. But anyhow, me look at some photos you guys sent in. Pictures. Okay, here we go. Then there was some this window over here. Because the problem I've been having before about critiquing pictures is I wasn't able to read the comments you guys were writing. Some of these pictures you guys sent actually for the Jimmy and Joe when they were on my live stream, so they're a little bit older. Let me arrange this so it's a little friendly. Put my head on the other side. Okay. So here we are, picture. Picture. Okay, okay. So this is trying to I wanted to read the comments that were submitted with this picture and find them. There's no way for me to do it. Oh, here it is. That was this one. Shot with the Pen F using partial color. So that's what the comments are here. Okay, this one, I don't know why the orange in the sign didn't come out. I guess it must be just slightly off the partial color, wheel, right? If you'd have turned it a little bit more over, you might have captured more of the sign. Because at the very least, I would have liked to have seen a little color in the actual Tropicana orange sign. But even if it was there, uh, for me, the sign is kind of distracting. I mean, I kind of get what you're doing. You're trying to juxtapose like this sign against this orange in the tree. Are these orange trees though? No, this is just these are just yellow leaves or orange leaves. So for me, I would have composed this shot without the sign. So I'd crop in right down in here. This. Something like that. See, this is a little more interesting to me with the orange, and then you see like the sprinkle of orange in the grass. I kind of like this, and then of course I would have walked over and tried to not get this fence in here. Just I would have stood more in front of this tree and then tried to frame it, but that's what I would do. Or um, the other thing you can, no, this is not black and white, partial color. That's what I would have done differently. This sign, as it is not adding any value to me if I were there. But maybe you guys see something different. uh, no, kind of orange like this soup my mom gave me, right? Anyhow, let's move on to next one here. Okay, see what the comments. I wanted to focus on the interesting juxtaposition of the billboard character with the walking woman. All right, so what he's saying is that this woman has been walking in front of this sign. Yeah, I agree. I like this wide crop. You guys, I love this wide crop. And yeah, I do like her walking in front. I don't think there's anything I would change about this. I think it's a good shot. Toyota. I mean, most of the shot is someone else's picture, right? This part. But the fact that she's here is kind of accents that picture in a way. So yeah, I like that. Yeah, Sam. The play on Tropicana with the orange colored leaves. I agree. I think that's kind of what they were thinking, but I don't think it worked. Didn't work for me. I don't know. Other people can look at the same image and think it's awesome. But for this image, there's nothing I would change. I mean, I might experiment with how it looks in black and white. That's about it. But it looks great in color too. So this is an awesome image. The only problem I have with it is most of it is somebody else's image. All you did was capture this moment where they were walking here, which is enough, really. Um, okay, let's move on to the next one. Whew. All right, this one, and I should have prefaced all of the opinions are my own, and it doesn't matter what I think. Of course, I'm just telling you what I would do if I took the same picture. But I also have to kind of qualify how I look at things a little bit because my background is in real estate photography, and Rick sort of um, pulled this out of my brain. I don't know how else to say it, but he asked me something or said something, and I said, "Well, that's because I'm in real estate photography, and it's my nature as a photographer, architectural photographer, is to crop things out that are distracting to the main subject, right? Because Like if I'm photographing a bedroom or a living room or a building, you know, if it's like a bedroom and there's a some power cords on the floor in the corner, or I see the hinges of the door kind of got cropped into the frame a little bit, I'll crop it out because I don't want to see the door hinges in the picture, right? I just want to see the bedroom. So my eye just naturally goes for straight horizons, straight lines, and no distractions. Now that makes for a good architectural type photo, right? But it may not make any sense at all for the kind of photos you guys are submitting to me. But that's how my eye and my brain has been trained for the last several years, is editing photos that way professionally for, you know, forever long. But so I'm looking at this picture and I don't see anything necessarily to crop out, but it's a little bit off center. Like I really like the subject in this case be front and center, because to me the subject is this little island, and for whatever reason the horizon looks a little crooked to me too. And then I would like a little more contrast between the blue water and the blue sky. It's just screams at me blue with this one little spot here of brown. So let me just check the horizons real quick. It feels crooked, but I'm kind of looking at it at an angle. It's hard to find a straight line in this image. Um, I just feel like it needs to be this way just a tiny bit. I like the 16 by 9 crop. I would center, I would probably center that. And I got to kill some of this blue somehow. Just too strong. See if this color wheel works. Yeah, that helps a lot. If I take some of the blue out, that to me is looking a lot better already. How about darker blue? Oh, so much better. Now, the water is a little bit darker blue, so I'll make that a little bit even darker than the sky. And then I'll bring the sky luminance up because I clicked on the luminance tab here for the individual colors. So that's a bit too much. But that feels better. And this would go a lot easier if I had a raw image, right? Because there's a lot more information to work with. Uh, but now there's still a bit too much blue, so I'm gonna warm it up a bit with a little bit of white balance. Tweak. Yeah, that. Oh yeah, I like that. A little bit more white balance. I could get rid of some of that teal. What is teal? Teal is little magenta. Yeah, there we go. Now I can see a little bit of green that's here in the island. Just a tad more. All right. Let's compare the before and after. That's about all I would do there. And I think might be a little bit too much water here. Where's my crop? We centered that. I think that's what I would do with that image. Let's compare these two. So that's the before and after. I might have taken too much blue out, but it was way too strong. Way too strong in the other image. I think this other image is a little bit better. A little bit easier, more natural looking to the eye, right? And then just crop in a little bit and make the island front and center. Because in the other image, it's kind of off center, which just bothers me. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think that looks okay, right? Yeah. I like that. Wow, look at that. There's a little boat down here, and there's some little boats here. This is huge. This must be like a multi-stitch pano or something. That's amazing. Really good shot, though. All right, let's go to the next one. Um, this one, let's see what the comments were. I struggle. I think it's this. Yeah. I struggle with finding subjects to photograph and specializing as the biggest challenge. I cannot label myself as a specific type of photographer. I like landscape, portrait, etc. My subjects are too varied. Well, that's good. That means you like photography. I mean, I think most photographers like all different kinds of photography. They only specialize when they need to make money and they're good at a specific thing generally. So, you know, if like Joe Edelman's an awesome portrait photographer, but he loves all kinds of photography. You know, I'm a real estate photographer. I love architectural, but I also love doing landscapes and wildlife and macro. So don't worry about, uh, that you don't have any specialty. Just enjoy, photography for all the different types or different ways you can experience it. And as far as trying to find a subject, that's always hard sometimes, right? Uh, Finding the subject in a scene. And if that's what you meant by the comment, let me get a little sip here. But um, when I look at when I look at when I go out and I do photography or photo walks and things, I try to take pictures or first, well, compositionally, I always look for the light first, and and then I look at the geometry, and then I look for the subject last. And I really should do it the other way around, right? I should always look for the subject, the composition, and lighting. They should really be all kind of equal, but the subject I think should be most important. But I have the habit of looking at lighting, because you always have to have light, and then the geometry, and that comes from my real estate photography or architectural. And then the subject is last, because usually I don't have subjects in my professional work, right? It's the subject is the room, the entire scene. And I'm trying to pass information over. But when I do my photo walks, I I think about the subject when I get to that part, because when I find the light and the geometry, then I think about the subject. Okay, now that I have light and geometry, what is the subject here? How can I use the geometry in this, make that emphasize that subject or complement it? Uh, but anyhow, there's so many different ways to look at a scene. Sometimes you look at a scene just for, like like negative space, right? But then you find a little accent for that negative space, and or you have the main subject, but then you have something in the background that accents the main subject. And I try to find things that are, if I find a subject, I try to find subject that represents the entire scene somehow. Like even if it's like a tree, right? I look at the tree and I said, okay, why did the tree grow this way? What was its life like? What purpose does it serve to the environment here? so if I see a tree, I try to put it in the context of where it is and what its life is. I'm the worst tree photographer ever, but a tree has a really long story. They live practically forever, right? Uh, so when I'm looking for subjects, so like this image here, right? The subject obviously is this, whatever this is, some kind of factory of some kind. And then there's a little windmill back here, wind turbine. So now this wind turbine to me is like sort of accents whatever this factory is. So I don't know if this factory is some kind of coal producing, terrible like pollution causing factory versus, and then you got this windmill over here that is sort of a green energy save the earth type vibe to it, right? Or so is there some juxtaposition there, or do these two things actually complement each other? And I just don't have that context because I don't know anything. I'm an idiot. So these are the two things uh, that stand out to me in this image as the subject. So I guess anybody living in that area would know what that thing is, and then this picture might make sense. But for me, looking at it, I have no idea what I'm looking at. Looking at a factory and a wind turbine. Uh, it's really a neat building, right? And I think this tree here gives it some scale. The parking lot back here, because there's a little light. But the lighting and everything is perfect on this. I think you really you have a good eye in the sense that you can see that the light here going onto these side of the building, making making really nice shadows and texture off of the from the sun. Uh, it's just a little bit too yellow for me. That's the only thing. I would just take it down a notch here on the white balance. Maybe like that. Then I would straighten it. Looks crooked. So I'm gonna use this light post right here to kind of straighten it. These two light posts are straight, but this wind turbine looks crooked now. I'm gonna split the difference and back off a tiny bit. Okay. Uh, now that looks straight. And I'd like to emphasize this wind turbine a little bit because I think it does accent the picture either as a contrast or as a complement. I'm not sure which. So I don't think we need this side over here on the right. I would argue we don't even need half of this one. I Not a 16 by 9 by 3. Kind of a random crop. Oh, this looks like I see some at the top here. I see a little bit of stitching. So it looks like you did a pano. You stitch things together, but I would probably do something like that as a crop. Cut off just a little bit more there. See how that looks. A little bit cooler. Oh, I think the color works better. And I would bring, I don't think there's any hope of bringing the highlights back on a JPEG, but try. Maybe go into luminance, bring the blues in a little bit. Make them a little darker. I want to bring this blue sky in a little bit. Complements these yellows really nice. When I see some magenta in there, crank that up. And I mean, it's exposed perfectly, nothing to do there. A slight haze. Let me see if that helps the sky a little bit. We lost a lot of detail here. Bam. Yeah, that helped a little. Tiny bit of clarity. And you know, the more yellow this... Okay, now that's looking good to me. Just a little bit too much yellow. I wonder if I can desaturate a tiny bit. Okay. The green's up a tiny bit. All right. That's all I'm going to do. So we'll do a quick comparison. So long story short, I just straightened it up and cropped in a little bit the parts that I didn't think really mattered. Like I said, I didn't think this extra part of the building mattered. But like I said, I don't know the context of the overall image. Maybe that's really important, and we need to keep it in there. That's what I would do. And then warm it or cool it off a little bit. It's just a hair too warm. Yellow was really strong in here. Yeah, beautiful picture. Really nice. Really, really nice. Okay, let's go to the next one. What is that? If there's any comments that came with it. Name of this image. One by Des. This was just a walk in the park. I thought this metal ball would make a nice composition. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think there's anything I would do with this. You've already processed it, it looks like, because the blacks are crushed quite a bit. And I like the tones on the front here. I like it. I don't see anything I would change about it. I mean, if I was there, I would see if there was other compositions I could do with this, because it's a really interesting subject. But I don't know what else is around it, so maybe this is perfect. I mean, it looks really good as it is. I mean, it's very contrasty. Nice shot, Des. I don't know. I think it looks good. Interesting subject. I mean, the fact that I can't see anything else around it, it's fine. It doesn't matter because the subject itself is so interesting. I don't know what the heck I'm looking at. I mean, I know it's some kind of work of art, but I think you captured it pretty well. I would just walk around a little bit if I was there, but I'm not. So okay, good shot. Oh, okay. This is very familiar feeling. Like these are the kind of shots that I would do when I go out. Um, because I'm always, in Alexandria, there's always these tight alleys, and then a lot of the streets have like this stonework in it. I don't like this ceiling here though. This ceiling looks kind of out of place with the rest of the scene. And the bicycle's cut off a little bit, and that may be unavoidable, right? Maybe there was something behind the bike that you didn't want in the frame. Light's coming in this way. So this looks like white painted brick versus this is not painted. What I'm trying to get at is, and with my eye, right, or I'd probably crop this and crop that but I think it's important to leave it in there because the space feels so closed in. If I were to crop in this door out, because this door kind of gives you a little more openness kind of feeling. I would probably crop this thing out. I don't know if that's doable though. A little sharpness. Highlights are brickwork. Sometimes a little clarity. Clarity works really good with bricks. That should bring out like the stonework and the brickwork more. I'm just making it a little more gritty. So let's check the lines. I'm looking at this at an angle. It's always hard because a lot of these buildings aren't perfectly straight either. Like it's perfectly straight on the left side. Yeah, I don't see any way to crop it. I mean straighten it. It looks perfectly straight. Just this the walls are just a little bit wanky. But that's just how they are. That's all I would do. So there's before and after. I mean, I kind of like this bike. I would have focused more on this bike a little bit. Bicycle, I should say. You get this feeling that it's kind of waiting to be taken out and and like you're about to get on it and take off somewhere. Um, but yeah, looks good though. I like it. I just didn't like this ceiling at the top. I feel like this kind of really took away from the rest of the feel of all the stone and brick. All right, try the next one. Penny, where are we? Oh, these are older. These are from last week, I think, when Jimmy and Joe were on, and I didn't get to these. I like this though. It's a nice picture. I think the exposure and everything is perfect for this kind of. It really sets kind of the tone of the image. Um, oh, sorry. Kosa was asking why am I cutting the arc because it was part of. Oh, anyway, let me look at the arc again real quick. I don't. I feel like that's too. Since you can't see the full arc, it's best just not to have it. That's just a personal opinion. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go back to this one. Yeah, this one I like. I like the tones in the image. Everything's exposed just right. The challenge I'm having with it is just how the bottom half, they're cut off. I kind of get it. Maybe you're trying to make it look like they're laying on the frame itself. Um, but if this is an image that you're going to hang on your wall, it's going to be framed again, or well, maybe not. Maybe it's just a canvas print. But I don't like how the very edges of their bodies are cut off by the frame. Then this pole, or not this pole, but this little beam here is cutting right through her head and her arms. And it's crooked, potentially. I feel like, sorry, I don't know whose picture this is. I'm sorry I'm beating it up. I just don't like crooked images. Yeah, that's I wish I could have got a little bit of a floor what they're laying on, just coming up to them a little bit and see their whole body instead of being cut off. I like getting all their shoes and feet in the like that. That's what I would do. I would keep it that nice wide format because this would be great on your wall. I would have I would have liked to seen a little bit of the road so you get more of the bottom of the image in. Okay, that's kind of the before and after. All I did was straighten it. Everything else is great. I like the tones. It's not like a pure black and white, kind of a bluish tint to it. And I like the scene. I mean, they're really, it's a really cute scene. I like how that you can see the bottom of the shoe here. It'd been neat to see the bottom of her shoes over here. It just needs more on the bottom. So if you still have the original image and you can get more of the bottom in, this would have been a good shot. Yeah, you know me, I like wide images. Really a big 16 by 7 fan. This is even wider than that if I had to. I actually could figure out the dimensions. Okay. So yeah, this beam, make it straighter, get the bottom in, but everything else is perfect. Okay. I love this picture. This red and green here, this guy with the red shirt, this is awesome. Just the image is a little bit flat. I think it needs a little more contrast. Then I might crop out this little top part here. This is a little bit distracting because this is very flowing and smooth all in here, but these are kind of crisscrossing up here. So I would just crop that out. Maybe this little bush down here, not bush, but this part of the grass. Yeah, that's wondering if I should get rid of this too. Now it's cropping into. Really want to get as much of the grass in as possible. This isn't too bad. Just out here outside of the frame was a bit too distracting. I would do that. And then I would definitely increase the contrast. I mean, sometimes I like a soft image. I mean, I haven't used an art filter yet. Maybe I should use one. I know some people are going to kill me, but I'm a huge art filter fan. See, I'm thinking, where's my soft focus? That do. Oh, yeah. All right, no art filter. All the other art filters would suck on this image. I think it just needs a little more contrast. Haze, not con. Just some dehaze. And dehaze ain't doing nothing. Already made. All right, let's just deal with the contrast. That much. But I hate to do it, but I have to play with the lights and shadows. Right, and then saturation. Where is that? I mean, and this is personal preference. I like them saturated. But the softer image looks good too. Like adding saturation, or what if we take even more out? I kind of like this. If I add too much saturation like this, it looks, I don't know. Kind of like the softer look that the original. More contrast. All right. That's all I can do to that one. I mean, it was really good the way it was original. There's not much that needs to be done to it, but if I were editing this for me, this little patch of grass here and this little patch up here has to be cut out. And then I think since the image is already kind of soft, it looks good the way it was originally, but I would make it even a little bit less saturated and a little softer. I think that to me, that's the edit I would do, I think. I think the softness, I don't know, somehow the softness looks good to me. It wouldn't change the saturation. Huh. Yeah, it doesn't need to be changed. Just I thought I'd try it. Like I kind of like the look of it though. But either one looks good. This would look great if we just crop this out and this little patch here. Okay, good shot though. That's all I would do differently. And there's so many here. Let me talk faster. uh oh, I love this building. You know, being up here, you can see that it has a beautiful view of everything around here. So if it were possible, I'd rather be higher up. Like in a different spot where I could see more of the view that this thing has. Because what you can't see, like all these mountains over here, they don't need to be in focus or sharp or the subject of the image, but I think it does, it would complement this building really nicely that you know this building has this gorgeous view. See what this is. Some kind of, oh, it's abandoned. Look, the roof is all gone. What a shame. And I would maybe do and none of these colors work for me. I would go with black and white because the blues are very blah and brown is, this brown and this blue just don't work for me. Maybe warm it up a tiny bit. Oh, that helps. Just, yeah, just a tiny bit there. And that. Oh, go a little bit wider. See if my 16 by 7 would. I like this better. Not that high. Let's see. Building up closer up to the top. What's happening when I look down in here? There's nothing but footprints and everything, right? It's kind of messy, so I'm just cropping that out because it's kind of messy at the bottom. Then you know me, I like wide images. Then let me see if contrast helps it a little. And that contrast slider is sensitive. See if the monotone has any hope. Not really. Would it need to be captured a little bit differently if I was intending to do black and white? We'll stick with the color. Because there's not enough tonality in here. If there was more tonality in the image, I would go with black and white, but it's kind of rocky. Now, what this really needs is dramatic tone filter. Why? Hold on. Let me reset something. I know it looks like a mess, but bear with me. Like that. Okay. God. There's no saving that. This really, if I had the raw file, the dramatic tone filter would be awesome on this because it really brings the clouds out and everything else. We'll leave that. All right, sorry about that. Okay, that's what I would do. Just warm it up slightly. If I wish I had the raw file because these clouds would be really amazing with a dramatic tone filter. Then I could bring the shadows back here a little bit. This is what I got. So there's the before and after. Basically just go wider, warm it up a little bit, give it a little more contrast. That's all I would do differently. But yeah, it's too bad about, this was the raw image. I think a dramatic tone filter would be awesome here. All right, let's go to the next one. But nice image. Okay, this one. I do. I like the bokeh and everything. Pretty girl. Something is missing for me. The natural light photo. This is not my genre. This is probably one that was for Jimmy and Joe. They would probably have really good tips for this. I like the image, but something is off on it. It's just, I don't know if it's these branches over here. What do you guys think? I can't put my finger on it. What it is I need to change about this image. Would work well as a black and white too. See, that's what it is. Yeah, this will work. And then now I'm seeing it. Do a vertical. Not so much tree bark. Yeah, I think that works. Try a little bit of dehaze. Or the shadows down. Highlight. Okay. I think this works. Um, I would think this, I'd like to crop this out, but it would mess up composition of this. I think that works. Let me try. Where the heck is my dehaze? Here it is. Okay, that's what I would do. I don't know if it might be nicer if she was looking at the camera in this kind of shot, but um Costa thinks a little more tree, huh? Go much more over that. That's about all I would do. But this is a whatchamacallit. I think there was some notes on this particular image. Let me see. That's here. I think that, yeah, this says straight out of camera JPEG with a Takomar 50mm f1.4. Probably shot around f2. And I'd like to add more pop without looking like it's an Instagram photo. So those are the comments on this. Rick says the original color had something like the girl lost in the woods. Yeah, that's true. But she's got like a slight smile to her, so I don't get that vibe of she being lost. I can put it back to color. Let me. I don't know. I like the black and white better. Either way, though. All right, let's do a quick compare. I think I think this makes, yeah, Mona Lisa smile, right? Plato, you're right. Rick thinks it needs the original space. Yeah, okay, I see where you're going. If we kept all the space in there, then she's got kind of this lost in the woods look. I can see that. That's true. Um, this little pink spot here, flower on her shirt is a little bit distracting. Yeah, it's a nice image. Okay, not much else I can do here. A little beyond my scope or ability to make this really give you good advice, because this image has so much potential. I can see that it's like got a lot going on, but I don't have the portrait experience to kind of really give you kind of feedback you'd need on an image like this. All right, this image. Oh, Paul. Paul sent this to me. How you doing, Paul? Uh, I think the comments on this was part of. Oh, I have. Okay, here it is. Paul says I have difficulties catching the rays of sun and still keep good exposure. Okay. This one here. This one here, I think. Okay, well, catching rays of light, it's not easy, right? But generally speaking, you want to expose for the ray at light itself. Just more closer to this, because what's happening is uh, the sky down here is 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 hiding the rays of light coming in. Because otherwise, you should be able to see, like over here, you can kind of see there's a ray of light, but then over here, they're all kind of blended together and blown out. So you really have to kind of underexpose the image a little bit so that the rays of light kind of sort of show a little better. And then it also helps when on the ground, if the rays of light are actually lighting something, so it kind of leads the eye all the way down to the ground. And the way this shot is now looks like a cemetery. There's no rays of light hitting the ground that I can see. So that also kind of takes away the effect, I think, because usually rays of light, they look really good when they hit the ground. I mean, maybe I'm not going to use this filter. I just want to see how much it brings out. 'Cause, yeah, that didn't help. The exposure is just too far gone to capture the rays of light. So maybe some dehaze. The haze ain't doing it. Clarity's probably not going to. Oh, wow. What were you at? Like F20? You got all these spots in your lens. But yeah, the problem with this image, to catch the rays, the exposure is a little bit too bright. You have to make it a little darker, and then you'll have to bring this up in post-processing. Well, not like that, but something like that. If I can separate the rays a little bit from the. That's about all I can do with it. But like I said, because the rays of light aren't really hitting the bottom here. But all I did was try to bring the midtones down and push the highlights to separate the rays from the rest of the image. Of course, nice wide crop like this. Let me bring the exposure up. I can use luminance here. I can bring all of these colors up. Everything but blue. All right. That's honestly, that's the best I can do with the image as it is. uh, Foreground is a graveyard with blossoms. Yeah, it's not easy. The dynamic range is pretty high. Like I said, if I had the raw image, I could probably bring out these buildings a little more. And I think this graveyard, if the rays of light were hitting the graveyard, I mean, I cropped all that out. That maybe not have been a good idea. That's all I can do with it as it is. So yeah, just underexpose slightly, then bring up the bottom in post-processing later. That's all you can do to bring out the light rays. Okay, Paul. All right, nice little macro shot. This was using a kit lens and the EM10. Got to be some extension tubes to get that close, I would assume. All I would do is saturate the yellows a little bit, pull the picture off slightly, and definitely. Oh, that's too much. Then bring the exposure down slightly. Okay. Now it just needs some dehaze. Sharpening. Probably crop it. That. All right, before and after. That was kind of a quick and dirty. I think that's what I would do. I just wanted to see more detail in the bee, so I wanted to crop in a little bit. A little bit soft. I think that's part of the extension tube. You know, extension tubes, they add a little bit of haze um, to the image sometimes because light's bouncing around all inside the tube. A lot of the tubes are just plastic inside. So let me try a little more dehaze. That out and see what happens. A bit too much. Right about there. Crop is just, that's what I would do. Okay. Saying more clarity. Lauren wants more clarity. Okay. I don't think clarity would help a lot with this. Be in this part here. Oh, I see what it's doing. That's a good idea. Giving a little more contrast to the. Yeah. I think that helps. Okay, let me move on. Last one. Whew. Okay. Oh, nice street image. just a little bit crooked. Straight. I like it. Let's crop this one part out here. There's a little bit of light here on the left side. I can just crop it slightly. That. Think. Let me think. Wait. This doorway, it's only half a door. I probably crop that out too. Get this window. Like this part here. Kinds of stuff here. I wish I could crop in more. Okay, that's what I would do. There was just too much empty space for me. Um, yeah, I don't like this part here and this thing. So I just cropped that part out. And I didn't like this door kind of being halfway. I just cropped up to this window. That to me is a, I mean, it's kind of losing its feel though, because I feel like we're too close to this guy now. I kind of like in this image how he looks kind of far away. So probably, I don't think I got to take this back. I wouldn't crop that much. I like the feeling of him being really far away. But how the sky is kind of captured. Maybe, maybe like that. Yeah, that's better. Okay, now I'm happy. I like this. I like this a little better. Like I said, I just had to get rid of this one thing over here. So it just needed a slight crop, but exposure and everything I think is really good. A slight dehaze maybe. Make it even crispier. Bit of clarity. Tiny bit of contrast. Now, I think that's what I would do. It's a little bit dark. Bring it up. I think the midtones. All right. Now I'm done. All right, sorry about that. Okay. It's funny, the picture on the left should show the original crop, but it's like go back. Yeah. Still doesn't show it, but that's what I would do. Long story short. Okay, that's it. Um Done. Nice shot though. Olympus 17mm f1.8 with the Pen F. Yeah, awesome. Awesome shot though. I really like it. Rick likes the misty feel of the wet and dark alley. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, if there was more mist, I would probably go that direction, but there's just didn't have enough mist in my opinion, like that soft feeling, so I just went the other way, super contrast. Like I said, it's all just personal preference, right? Um, yeah, I like it. Okay. All right, guys, that was it for the photo editing. I think Elaine said you sent one, but it's a little bit too late. Um, let me go ahead and the heck is my button here? Nobody wants to see my desktop. Maybe you don't want to see me either. I don't know. But thanks everybody for coming in. I appreciate it. Was there any other last minute questions maybe or uh yeah, I'm sorry, Elaine. Yeah, it's an excellent photo. All right, let me just look at Elaine's picture. My link. Oh wow, like 3 more pictures came in. I'll have to hit these next time. But Elaine sent this one in. I'll just show you guys this one. Oh my God, some crazy guy. Why is he mad? And why is there music in the background? And I like it, but I'm definitely seeing a little trend with your images. Really like to go really all out on the artwork, like the artsy feel. Like, like if this guy was like a, maybe he is, but if he was like a known musician, this could be a good cover for an album. I think. Yeah, I can't make any edits to this at all because it's fine the way it is. I just feel like this is like an album cover. Then you could put like the musician's name or band up here. And then on the back would be the list of all the songs, like the old vinyl records. Okay. Yay. All right. Thanks again. I'm gonna go eat this soup. And looks like a young Peter Force card. Oh my god, that's funny. Oh, that's exactly what it was for, a musician for his album. Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like a really good album cover. All right, guys. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you guys next week.